Welcome everyone to Rewind Recap Relive, where legends and rising stars meet. I'm your host Jonah, and what a crazy week in wrestling we just had, and we've got an equally exciting episode of the show for you today with ECW legend Justin Credible, wrestling legend in general, of course, former World Heavyweight Champion and ECW Tag Team Champion. He's coming on with rising star Sabotage Sean Logan. And Sean actually trained with Seth Rollins and Harley Race at their respective training schools. These two, Justin and Sean, have some great dynamic back and forth, some great advice from Justin, great stories. Enjoy this interview, but first we have to get into the two winners of the Undertaker pop figures. I got them right here. Two winners, and let's talk about next week's episode, and we've got a big surprise coming at you New Year's Eve. Let's get into it. Alright, first, the moment everyone has been waiting for. Nearly 30 of you guys entered, and I can't thank you enough for that. The Undertaker pop figure giveaway. One of these pop figures is going to Creeper Christ. Congratulations, you won yourself an Undertaker pop figure, and that's pretty cool. The other one is going to Figures Enthusiast. Congratulations, guys. You are the winners. I will be in touch with you. I will be sending these out to you, and anybody who did not win, weekly giveaways, you will have a lot of other chances to earn yourself some cool pop figures, memorabilia, signed memorabilia, whatever it is. You guys have the chance to win it. Make sure you keep your eye out to Creeper Christ and Figures Enthusiast. Congrats. Next week on the channel, we've got something really cool coming at you in a giant collab again, like you saw a few weeks ago with the Thanksgiving special. We've got a holiday special coming at you with Circle of Debate, That 90s Wrestling Podcast, who could forget Dirty Heels, Joe Fo in the Ring, and a bunch of more people are showing up too. We're growing. It's crazy. Last time it was like 10 of us. I think it's going to be about 15 or 14 of us this time, so make sure you tune in for that. More podcasts, and it's always opportunity for you to learn about guys you may not know who are in the realm of wrestling, fellow YouTubers and podcasters alike. I know you guys are going to enjoy it. Show up and show support for myself and all of the people who produce the wrestling content that you love. That is next Thursday, December 24th. Make sure you're here. Don't miss it. And I mentioned at the beginning of this episode that we have a surprise coming at you New Year's Eve. Well, we really do. And this is, listen to my words when I say this. This is our biggest guest yet, okay? So keep that in mind. I'm not going to tell you who it is. That comes the week after the holiday special that I just mentioned. So that's coming at you. As I said, New Year's Eve. Make sure you come to the channel. It falls on a Thursday, so we're in luck. Going to be a great episode, okay? Well, I'll promise you this. It's unique. How's that? Great episode. I'm excited for it, but you guys will definitely see it as a unique interview. I'm looking forward to it. Looking forward to releasing it. Please comment your guesses down below. Don't know if I'll tell you if you're right, and I don't know if I'll tell you if you're wrong, but please comment any guesses you have down below. Now that that's all taken care of, all you guys have to do is please subscribe to the channel. It always helps us. Like the video, share it around, comment your guess down below for 2 weeks' time. That episode, I want to know who you think the guest is, our biggest guest yet. Make sure to hit the notification bell, ding, 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 so you don't miss a thing. Don't miss the collaboration next Thursday. It's going to be so great. If you enjoyed the last one, you'll like this one even more. There's more people. How could it not be better? But most of all, please enjoy Sabotage Sean Logan and ECW legend Justin Credible. The interview is Justin Credible. Enjoy. Our first guest wrestles out of the Midwest area mainly with the promotion ICW Pro. With 4 years under his belt, he's looking to continue to make his name known in the wrestling world. Please welcome Sabotage Sean Logan.
Awesome. Thank you for having me, man. My pleasure. Very excited.
Absolutely. I'm happy to have you here. Our next guest is a legend in the wrestling world. He worked worldwide in companies like WWE, WCW, and of course ECW, where he was a former World Heavyweight Champion along with a Tag Team Champion. Please welcome Justin Credible.
What's going on, guys? How are you?
Good. Thank you so much for being here. Yeah.
Oh, good to be here, man.
Great. Awesome. And so first I'd like to talk about the beginning. I always like to start at the start of it and understand how it is that you got into the world of professional wrestling. And Sean, if you can go first and just tell me how you became interested in wrestling and where your career in the industry began.
Yeah, long story short, kind of, I remember I was with my family. It was my dad, my sister, and we were flipping through the channels. And I remember, I think it was Friday Night SmackDown. And I remember I was about 7 years old, and my sister was just flipping and came on to SmackDown. And I remember seeing the lights go out, and I was like, what the heck's going on? And then the lights flip back, and then you just see Undertaker in the ring, and I was just like, who is this guy? This guy's like amazing. He just takes out maybe 3 or 4 guys in the ring, and I was hooked. I was Undertaker fan from that point on, and he's been my guy ever since. But that I just continued to watch, and then when I turned about 12 years old, my dad, so we have a barbecue restaurant back out here at home in Illinois, and so I've always worked for him as my job, but at the time I was working for him, and my dad's like, okay, if you work for me for this whole summer, I'll split and get you a wrestling ring. And I was like, okay, like I'll put my money towards it. We split, perfect deal. And at the time,
That's
it was a 12 by 12 wrestling ring, not 18 by 18 or 20 by 20 you see on TV. And so 12 by 12 at the time, being 12 years old, it worked as a good training ring. And we met, my dad's friend, knew a guy who knew a guy, but a local independent wrestler, and his name was Tony Rican. And he trained me in that ring for a couple of years, just taught me the basics. And even I do want to say, like, learning the basics, I mean, probably 6-7 years ago, the Pro Wrestling 101, Mr. Incredible, had those tips are just awesome. Like, learn, because I feel like it was before its time, kind of. Like, I see nowadays a lot of people have those training tips or everything kind of nowadays are doing the channel, but there was nothing on YouTube I felt that would teach you, the business. And I remember finding those videos, but it was probably about 6-7 years ago when I was just starting out. And I remember finding those, and I was like, dude, this helps so much, And me being 12, 13, I didn't know anything. So I was just, those are awesome to help. But so I started refereeing, though, for some local indies in Indiana to get my foot in the door when I was about 12. And then when I turned about 16, that's when I had my first match in the Indiana promotion called NGW. And then so 16 to now, it's been about just a little over 4 years of wrestling. And so that's kind of how I got into it. But my main training, I did go when I turned 18. Instead of going to college, I told my parents, I said, hey, this is my dream. I'm going to do everything I can to pursue it. So they paid for, I had to go, I went to Harley Race Wrestling Academy, went there for 3 months in Troy, Missouri. My grandparents lived in St. Louis, so it's about an hour drive to the school and back. So the head trainers there was Harley Race and Leland Race. And then about 6 months later, I went to Black and Brave Wrestling Academy in Iowa, and I trained with Seth Rollins, Merrick Brave, and a wrestler named Crotch. So that's my training, and so that's how it all started, and we're on the journey right now.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love that you were a referee at 12 years old. I think that's awesome. I haven't heard that before. And Justin, can you tell us about the start of your journey now? Do you resonate with Sean at all?
I think it resonates with everybody. Wrestling is such a unique thing, but also as unique as it is for each individual, it's also very common, the same journeys and the same things we do. When I got involved, it was a bit different. The generations were different. I got in '92. So there was still a bit of kayfabe left in the business. There weren't, obviously the internet wasn't a thing yet. And so, information and kind of knowing where wrestling schools were, if there were even such a thing, because like I said, you'd hear some stuff from the Meltzer Observer, but really that's it. You didn't have the social media and the way to communicate these days that kids could find information. So I was working, graduated high school at 18. I was working as a baggage boy at a grocery store. And on my breaks, I would read the Pro Wrestling Illustrateds and magazines like that for the 15-20 minute break I'd have. And in one of them, there was an advertisement for the Hart Brothers Pro Wrestling Training Camp in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. And I was like, wow, it was the first thing I'd ever seen personally to get my foot in the door in pro wrestling. And I'm from Connecticut, which is all the way on the East Coast, and Calgary is all the way up north on the West Coast. And So I worked for about a year, a little under a year, to save up money. And, I talked to Keith Hart from the famous Hart Brothers, and I went up to Calgary the summer of '92 to train to be a pro wrestler, and got my first match on my 19th birthday. So that's how it all kind of started. Yeah.
Wow, that's so cool. Is that the is that the dungeon that is synonymous with the Hearts, or is?
Yeah, it wasn't. It wasn't the way the way people hear the stories these days.
Right.
Because Stu Hart wasn't really involved. He was much older. I had visited the dungeon, but no, they had a ring set up somewhere else. But the Harts were certainly there. Lance Storm and Chris Jericho were trained the previous year at the same facility. So it's like, a lot of good guys, were around, and I got some great instruction and great learning, Like I said, 2 months after I finished camp, because in Calgary, it's a bit different than a lot of the camps that I'm familiar with. I went there for 2 months. We'd train Monday through Friday for 2 or 3 hours. And after 2 months, that was it. You were done. And, ready to kind of go. So I came home for a little bit and had my first match. My first 10 matches were out in Calgary from October of '92 to the end of '92. And then I came back to America in '93 and started doing jobs for WWE, Monday Night Raw and stuff like that.
I love it. Sean, can we go now to your experiences at Harley Racing School and, of course, Black and Brave Academy? How was that? What did you take away, some valuable experiences?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like, I will say it is two different, kind of elements, different training styles. And at Harley Race, I was like one of the last classes before he passed away. And I felt like it was very, I don't want to say old school, but I mean, you got old veteran, Harley Race training, and then you got Seth Rollins, who's current, on the roster. But I will say, like, in ring, it was more a team effort. I felt like with all the guys, it was very similar with all the basics starting up and stuff, but it was more of a team effort when you're doing it. So let's say if I were to learn a hip toss, right away, and let's say if the one guy got it down right away and I'm still struggling, like we would all have to wait until we all got it down. It's a team effort. And then the workouts, it was a lot of bodybuilding type things, or even just like, throwing a tire down 100 yards outside, like kind of crazy stuff, getting a sledgehammer out, hitting it. And then Rollins was our Black and Brave. We did a lot of CrossFit workout, and that stuff really the like hardcore working out at Harley's was awesome, but it just getting so gassed with the CrossFit. It's something I've never done in my life, and we'd have to do 3 sessions minimum every week, and then train, on top of that. But it was such a different workout. I end up really liking it, but the CrossFit was a whole new world of training. And then the one thing I did enjoy at Black and Brave was when, let's say, I learned the move. Let's say I learned the hip toss, and if I didn't get that down, they'll teach everyone how to do it, the foundation of a hip toss. But the next day, class ends at 9:00. But then the next day, they'll have open ring from noon to 5:59 right before the next class starts. So if you don't learn the hip toss by then, that's your own fault. So they really wanted to make sure everything kept moving. And having Harley's experience right before that really helped me for that school, because a lot of the moves I was able to get on the first day. But it was, for some of the other kids, they didn't have any experience. So they'd be at the open ring session right when the doors open at noon to, 6:00 right before practice starts, just trying to learn it, But that was really the differences. And I really did enjoy both schools. And those guys, definitely who I think I'm very thankful for all the trainers there, and they definitely helped me, where I am today.
Right. And Justin, would you say that in that training in those first 10 matches, did you take to wrestling easily? Was it like
Oh
second
yeah.
nature? Did it? Yeah. Let's
Yeah,
see.
I mean, my first day, I'm not bragging or anything of
No,
that
of
nature,
course,
but
yeah.
when I was 15 years old, I was doing backyard stuff, and you know, for me it was very natural. I just mimicked what I saw on TV. So I mean, you know, I pretty much, knew how to wrestle, but not knowing how to correctly execute certain moves. You know, like not knowing that everything goes off the left side, left arm, etc.
Yeah.
So I really just got to learn how to do things correctly, got to learn how to piece things correctly. So, yeah, I mean, at the Hart Brothers, the start of the 92 camp, there were 12 people, men and women that entered, and only 2 of us finished. So like he was saying too, they do that to see if you have the fortitude to move forward. They try to blow you up and to really work you out to see kind of, what kind of person you are and if you're really serious about it. As well as get you in shape. But, a lot of the times it was just to kind of see how serious you really were. So, but it was a cool experience, man. I don't, I don't think I would be where I am today if I did not go to the Hearts. I mean, just the name value alone got
Yeah,
me
exactly.
noticed,
Yeah.
yeah, when I was first going for just try to get into WWE, I just went backstage at a house show, and right off the bat, I was asked who trained me. And when I said the Hearts, that opened up doors, because Brett and Owen were there at the time. So it made it a little easier for me. But, yeah, it was, I kind of took to it right away. And, in less than, I would say, yeah, less than a year's time, I was signed to the WWE in August of 94.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
well, a little over a year, I should say, to be accurate. A little over a year, I'd signed my first contract.
That's awesome, man. That's a
Different
thing
times,
too.
though, it was a different time,
Yeah.
man, you know what I mean?
That's the thing
yeah,
too.
it was cool.
You said like they were trying to make you like quit, test your fortitude. Sure. And like I remember that's like during the Black and Brave class, like they even like advertise it. They don't care if you quit or not. They already got your money. So it's like
that's the attitude, sure.
Yeah, and like you said, we had 12 guys as well, and I was one of I think we had 4 left when we finished. And I remember just like talking to one of the guys who like didn't even want to do it anymore, because at Black and Brave we all lived in the same house together. Rollins got a house for everyone to live at, and the one guy was just ready to pack his bags. And I was like, dude, like even if you don't want to do this, like afterwards, just finish the school, finish the training out, man. Like you paid this much for it, you might as well finish. So he did end up staying, so that was cool. But he doesn't wrestle anymore, or he's never had a match. But it's crazy the things like during those times, people just like it really tests people, and like sometimes it makes you just think like, how in the world did like I've never seen one kid. I'm like, there's no way like anyone prepared him for this. Like he was out the first night, and I was just like, come on, But some people just don't know what they're getting into, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and 2, the reason that was done, and that was done also back in the old days to wrestlers, like, there's a famous story of Harold Matsuda training Hulk Hogan in the early days, in the late 70s, early 80s, where he broke Hulk's leg on purpose to see, because he thought he was just some musclehead, kid from the beach in Tampa to see if you really had what it took. And Hulk kept coming back. So they almost do that to you to see if it's worth, if you're worth their time. Although it's a bit barbaric, I kind of could see why. And it also, in those days, and I still think to some degree, we screwed the pooch on this. We back then, they didn't want to bring too many people into the business, because the more people you're turning out, the less opportunity there is for you. Although that might sound selfish, as you get older, you start to realize, wow, we just keep turning out wrestlers. They're going to do it better than us and cheaper than us. So it started to become a bit of a kayfabe thing, where you kind of didn't want to turn out talent as quickly as it was there, because then you're really making yourself obsolete. So it was a way of balancing out power and balancing out jobs, because man, nowadays there's how many thousands of wrestlers, where in 92 there were probably only a couple of hundred wrestlers in the scene, because there weren't as many independents and et cetera, or schools. So, I mean, that's a big part of it, because, when I got involved, there was, you know what I mean? It was much easier to make than it is today, because now there's just still very little jobs available and a lot more talent. So, it was just, it was kind of a way to also see who was, you know what I mean, who was fit for those jobs, so to speak.
Yeah. Who was hungry enough for it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Or who had
Yeah.
it.
Justin, I'd love to talk about your style now, how it shifted from being signed in the early 90s to a company like WWE to then going to a company like ECW. How did you change that? How did you make that transition? Because I'm sure in the hearts, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm sure you didn't get taught about, weapons, bashing people with chairs and kendo sticks, right?
Well, sure, and it wasn't, and a lot of people, we talk about this. We don't learn a lot of moves in wrestling camp. At least we didn't. We learned the basics. We learned how to bump. We learned how to, lockups, headlocks, mat work, running the ropes, stuff like that. How to sell and how to protect one another. But it's not like, or at least we didn't at the Hearts, have a day where you're going to learn a superplex or a German suplex. That's stuff you learn with experience throughout your years in the business. And I know I've been to many wrestling schools, within the past couple of years, just stopping by or doing seminars, and like, kids are trying to do so many things and learn so many things cold, instead of really just grasping the basics. And like, learning certain moves, that's stuff you should save in the ring. I remember I was wrestling Scott Steiner, the Steiner brothers, in like 94 for a Monday Night Raw. And Scott wanted to do the move where he has you up in a vertical suplex, throws you in midair, and then sits out in a pile driver. We never practiced that.
Oh, wow.
He just said, "Hey, let me see if I can get you up, and and how light you go up." And he goes, "Just tuck your chin and I'll take care of it." So a lot of the stuff that you learned back then was just on the fly. But in a way, it made you, it made you adaptable, and B, also, you learned your basics to a T. Like, I remember being at the gorilla position, ready to go out, and somebody had a tryout match. And Pat Patterson and Vince McMahon were sitting there at gorilla. And it was these two muscled up guys, and they go to lock up, and right from the lockup, Pat Patterson leaves, and Pat was Vince's right-hand man.
Wow.
And Vince turns around and he goes, "Pat, where are you going? These kids have a tryout." And he goes, "God damn it, Vince, if they can't lock up, they can't fucking work." And that was it. The tryout was done. So they believe very much in learn your basics. The rest could be taught, or learned throughout your career, because you when you get out there, you learn. Like, I learned when I went to Japan. I learned different styles when I went to ECW, and that stuff you don't learn in a classroom. So I always was very I believe that learn your basics to the best of your ability. That's why I did the Pro Wrestling 101 stuff.
Right.
Is like, learn your basics, and if you master that, the rest will come through work and through experience.
That's awesome, man. I remember like at Black and Brave, we did that was a big thing Rollins was about, because we, at the end of the sessions, we'd have to do like, a 5-minute training match, and they only want us to use the moves they taught us, and like you said, we didn't really learn that many moves,
Right.
We didn't, like you said, we didn't learn superplex, or anything. So when it always frustrated them when a kid would get just start doing things off the top rope, and it's like, we don't need that, like, just.
Well, I mean, you will need it, but not at that moment. I get, and as a kid, you don't get it either. You don't. Sometimes you don't understand it, or you question your instructors, and that's like, as I've gotten older, been in it 30 years going, and this year is going to be 30 years at the end of the year.
Nice.
It's like, you don't understand why they're being like that, but now I see. Now, after putting in all the time, I do understand those lessons that are sometimes hard to try to understand when you're just coming into the game.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Awesome.
And speaking of the Pro Wrestling 101, is perfect segue. I'd love to get into some of those basics. So, Sean, I'd like to get your opinion first. How do you tell that story in the ring with your opponent? Tell us about storytelling in some of your matches.
I mean, my big thing is just, I think just what I'm learning nowadays is just taking time. Is just slow down. Starting up. I'm trying to get, and it's probably real basic. A lot of young guys like me start, but it's just how the gears start turning. You start learning. But I think I like not that I want to get my stuff in, you always hear that, but it's just like I'm always just trying to get to the next thing because that's what that's what we talked about in the back, that's what we planned, and now I'm really understanding the greatness of just calling it out there, because just, and especially not right now, it's really tough because I'm wrestling either with 0 fans or I just last week was 25 fans at a show, so but calling it out there, I feel like you really do. If you're doing something that they don't like, then you're able to switch it up and listen to what they want, what they're responding if they don't like it. But right now, man, like I'm learning how to just like slow it down and really like just selling, for a great example, just selling and just giving off that emotion, facial expression, just telling that story and trying to get those fans behind me. And, honestly, I don't know it all yet, but I love just learning and getting better. And then even when you're a heel, it's just taking your time with that heat, and really milking it. And like, you don't have to do like, if you got a minute, to do a heat, and you really don't have to fit so many moves in. You could really just do a few moves. And I'd love to know if I'm right or wrong, Mr. Credible, but I feel like just doing a lot less moves and just really playing off that crowd and just telling that story and facial expressions and how you move, how you react, how you showboat,
Sure.
all that.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really love learning that.
I mean, sure, it's all different. I mean, look, this one thing I've learned throughout, all the years I've been doing it is just kind of, it's going to be different every time. I try to just go out there and, we all have an idea in our heads of what it's supposed to be, and I think we confuse it. We make it much harder than it has to be because as a fan, we knew what we wanted. Like, again, I knew what I wanted to do when I was a young kid in my backyard. And quite frankly, in my backyard, nobody was watching. I was with my buddies. So it was very loose and very fun.
Yeah.
And when I got trained, I started to hear all these things, and there were all these rules and all these ideas that were quite confusing, right? I didn't understand it and why. And, it all seemed like, what the hell? But at the end of the day, what I found that worked best for me is just to kind of listen to what the instructor said about keeping it to your, like mastering your craft with the basics. And then, man, like today, I mean, I know I've had a lot more experience, but I've learned that just going out there and having fun and really selling everything. And I mean, there's so many different styles, and the business has evolved so much that, have an idea of what you want to bring out there and work with the guy. You know what I mean? Everybody has strengths, everybody has weaknesses. And what I like to do when I go out there with someone today is like, find out what they want to do, and then kind of, look, I have 5 things that I want to do. You have 5 things that you want to do. How do we fit it into a match? And just then go out and do it. It's really, I think a lot of times we make it harder than it has to be.
Yeah.
And then also, of course, it matters what level you're at. If you're on pay-per-view, if you're on Raw or SmackDown, that's a lot different a kind of a match you're going to put on than if you're wrestling at an indie show in front of 50 people. Because I'm there right now, back again. It's like, it's funny, your career goes full circle, So yeah, but it just, I think we forget to have fun out there and really just, instead of planning these long, I always disliked, I don't want to say hate, but I always disliked strongly when kids would sit there and take the kid from their wrestling school and have this 20-minute WrestleMania match that they've rehearsed in the school a million times, and then go out and try to do it in front of fans, and then realize, like, and then they wonder why it didn't work.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they're vibing off
Right.
of what they're doing, but it's almost like they're doing it for themselves. They're not doing it to entertain the crowd. So just sometimes going out there with an open like palette and just painting a picture is so much easier than going through these, all these, choreographed spots that, they see on TV, or they see, elsewhere or in Japan, that they want to emulate, instead of just like worrying about making themselves the better performer. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes any sense, but
and even like going out there with an
sense,
open palette, like you say, like I remember a few weeks ago, just I'm trying to really study and like understand that like you should watch, and maybe this is right or wrong, but like I really am trying to watch the matches before mine to make sure I'm not doing a lot of the same stuff, because like
oh sure, yeah.
I remember like a few weeks ago there was a show that just had so many dives, and we had one dive planned in our match, and it's just like I don't know if it's even worth it anymore, because they just did 3, 4, 5 dives. So that was something I've been trying to, and like you said, go out there open palette, be ready to change if you got something I think planned, I guess, because that dive was planned and now we got to switch it because you can't just do that because they just did 5 dives. The crowd's gonna
and they're gonna. That's the thing is, and I still to this day I like to watch the matches, and I know a lot of guys. Like I remember being at a show with Terry Funk in 2009. And, him and I were watching the matches, and a lot of the other talent wasn't. And then here's Terry Funk, one of the greatest wrestlers of all time, still watching the matches. Because if somebody is doing, a million super kicks before you go out there, or a million, you know what I mean? It's like fans don't want to see the same stuff. Even, you know what I mean? It's like there are certain moves that everybody wants to do. It kind of, they get lost in it. So just by watching and seeing what is being done before you really goes a long way into how your matches are going to be received by the public that paid to see it, because at the end of the day, you're there to entertain them, not to entertain and mark out for yourself. So
that is a big thing, because like I find myself like before I really was just like I don't want to watch the matches before because I'm trying to remember the stuff in my head, and now it's like that's so bad because I should just like be watching it and then be able to just work on because I don't, then if you're watching it you don't have to remember it because you get to see what to do.
I just think that young men in this game should just go out there and try harder to really call it in the ring. And what I mean by that is, are you going to probably have a 5-star match that way? No, you're not. But at that stage in the game, you're there to better your ability. Now, if you're there to kind of show off and you want to feel good about it and put some cool spots together, all right, that's cool. But if you're going to go out there and do yourself a favor by learning, I think going out there with nothing really planned except a finish will help you in the long run. You might go out there and it might stink, right? But you will have some valuable lessons that night. And is it worth it in front of 20 people? Probably, because at the end of the day, you're trying to get better, not necessarily get yourself off by having this match on, that you recorded with your buddy that you could show back to your friends. Instead, you go out there and try to have a real experience and really trying to work a crowd and try to really get something out of it for the future. You should be, I think, kids at this young stage in the game should worry about improving every time they go out there instead of, I want to get this on tape and I want to try all these spots just to kind of try to impress their buddies or, fellow locker room members or whatever. But really, if you go out there and just work, it might suck, but there's a lot of, it might not suck. And it also will help you kind of, because you can't know until you try. And a lot of times you're going to hit those dead ends, but when it finally comes through and you start to feel more comfortable, that's when the breakthroughs start to come. When you go out there and you could feel confident working with anybody and going out there, freeing my mind up. When I planned a bunch of shit, I would go out there, I wouldn't do my character, I would be stiff, and you could tell spot from spot that I was thinking, not working. And when I started to do less thinking and more just being in the moment, I started to become a better performer. I started having better matches because like a lot of those like back and forths, like the Flair Steamboat chops back and forth and a lot of exchanges, you can't plan that stuff. 90% of the time that stuff's ad-libbed. And some of the best moments in wrestling history are ad-libbed due to the crowd and due to emotion. And I think we try to, call that stuff in the back when you can't possibly understand what the crowd is going through and what that's going to entail. So I think it's finding that little middle ground where you can call some cool stuff, and you could also, you know, you could plan some stuff and call some stuff and kind of meet it in the middle. That's when I think you'll find the most success.
Yeah, I think that even plays on like what you said about having fun, because when you're out there just with a clear
when
mind,
you're having fun, they see you're having fun.
Yeah, and like you're able to soak in more.
Yeah.
And Justin, now if we could transition to a bit of a career-specific point for you, when you signed with WWF in the early 90s, can you take us on that journey? How did you feel getting signed to a company after wrestling backyard, as you said? I'd love to hear what was going through your head and some of your early experiences.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was in the mid 90s, WWF was doing pretty bad business in the United States. And they were looking to expand overseas. I was doing a lot of Monday Night Raw tapings, WWE Superstar or WWF Superstars and Wrestling Challenge. Those were the Saturday morning syndicated shows. And because business was down, they were doing a lot of them locally in Connecticut, New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Massachusetts, which was all driving for me. So I ended up being booked, 2-3 weekends out of the month, just, to do TV jobs. But nonetheless, I was getting recognized and noticed by Vince and a lot of the officials. And just literally one weekend, I got called up by the office to go meet Undertaker, Mark Calloway in Stamford.
Wow. Yeah.
Because they were bringing in Brian Lee to do the fake Undertaker.
Okay.
And I was to kind of be there for Brian to kind of go through the matches and bump for him while Mark and Brian worked on his, him doing the fake Taker thing. So I worked with them all week up in Stamford. And then at the last day, I was going to work with him live on Raw. Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson came down to watch the live, the rehearsals in real time. Brian Lee got dressed up as Undertaker, and and it was Vince, Pat, and Mark. And after it was done, they thanked me, whatever. And then Pat Patterson came over and started asking me questions about, how long have you been working? Who trained you? And I told him the Hearts, and he kind of popped, and he asked me what nationality I was. And I said, well, I'm Portuguese. And he popped, and he told Vince out loud. And he goes, well, do you speak it? Again, he popped and told Vince out loud. And the whole time they were looking for a Portuguese wrestler because they wanted to go to Brazil and to Portugal because business was bad in the States. So they were looking for someone to fill the Aldo Montoya role. So I was in the right place at the right time, which was then the start of me getting signed,
That's awesome.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, those are some amazing people to be around, and of course, obviously, just lost the legend Pat Patterson.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, that was rough.
Yeah. Any early memories of the Undertaker specifically, other than that? Because of course he just retired, or was that really just great guy?
No, I mean, yeah, he was a great dude. I mean, I worked with him quite a bit. I used to hang out with them guys. I mean, just an all-around great dude. I mean, what you hear is what you see is what you get. I mean, Mark's a great dude, man. Quiet though. He's quiet, but he's a fun guy to be around. And again, he's a legend. He's a hard worker, and he was always a leader. Like Mark would always, because people don't understand. We'd be on these long, extended 25, 30-day tours where all we did was see each other. We'd be traveling, in airplanes and cars and being in these cold arenas, exhausted. So, he was really like the sheriff in the town, just to kind of make sure nobody got bullied, nobody really got picked on. And, I don't know, it was just, when you're out there, it's a different game than, when you're doing an independent once a week or stuff like that. You're literally doing the touring lifestyle. And at some times it can get really crazy. It can get really lonely. And, having guys like that to kind of hold it down was really important, because we spent more time with the guys in the locker room than we did with our own families at home, because we were on the road so much. So it was real important. And he was a very integral part of the whole, WWE machine, especially in those days when we used to tour so darn much,
Yeah, was that like
absolutely
crazy? Was that like crazy, like I guess adapting to that new lifestyle, that just touring at first?
It was difficult, but it just became what you did,
Yeah.
Yeah, it was hard. I don't think I could do it today,
Yeah.
but it was great because, uh, you're making money, you're young, you're wrestling every night, you're wrestling some amazing talent, and you're getting to see the world. Like, literally sometimes you'd be on the road for 30 straight days in a different town every day.
Wow.
So it was fun, but it was also, exhausting. We played hard, we worked hard, and it was something, that's for sure.
Yeah.
you know
That's awesome,
Yeah.
bro.
Definitely. Yeah.
It's so cool to hear that. Sean, could we now transition? Let's see, for some moments in your career. I know you've worked for a variety of promotions. What are some moments that really resonate with you as they excelled your career? You look back, you're happy at those memories, those matches.
Yeah, well, so I suppose like one of them would be, so when I first started out, I wrestled under a hood, a mask, and
Okay.
when I was 16, I went by the gimmick El Muchacho, just starting out. It was goofy starting out, but I had to get my reps in, and
Yeah.
when I was 16, that kind of happened. I had my first match, and that was awesome. And the guy told me that was like, the company guy was like, "Hey, let's just have you under a mask. If you screw up, you screw up. No one knows it's you." And I was kind of like, "Okay, that's fine." But I wrestled with that, probably until I got trained by the big schools, like by Harley and Black and Brave. And then when I think the big relief match was wrestling as Sabotage, just not having a mask on and being able to just actually, like, even face or heel, just be able to really it's like wearing glasses, you take them off and you actually see the real world. like I feel
Yeah.
like just actually being able to yell at a human that I don't normally, I would never yell at someone on purpose, but just being able to like have that, that mask was really a big, having that off just changed it and really expressed just a new life in wrestling, and having the new character. And I remember the first match, it was at SCW Pro in Iowa, and we it was just, I was really nervous, but it was actually awesome. I think we had like 300-person crowd, and it was just, just a classic moment that I'll always remember, just having that match. And I was against a hometown hero, and I remember he had the football jersey, and I disrespected that jersey. And then it was fun. It could have been one of the worst matches looking back at now, but I had so much fun in that moment, just being able to be who I wanted to be over El Muchacho.
And Justin, I'd love to get your feelings on that, because from Aldo Montoya to Justin Credible, a big change for you. Maybe could you tell us about that, going from WWE to ECW?
The change was more. It wasn't as much as you would think.
Okay.
I just went to working, as a heel, and really just, it was a very natural switch, to be honest. I just wore different clothes and worked a different style, but it was easy, believe it or not. It was actually more rewarding and comforting to go out there and be a heel, because being a heel, in my opinion, is much easier than being a babyface and being liked. Especially when you had a character like Aldo, who had a weird mask and wasn't, middle to lower cards. So to do Justin was fun and rewarding, and it was a pleasure. I thought it was easy. And ECW, we get a bad rap for being stiff and crazy, but it actually wasn't as bad as people thought. Um, which is,
That's
I guess,
interesting.
it goes to show you that a lot of it was, we knew how to work, and we knew how to work people. So a lot of the times, man, it was a work, and people just did assume that we were killing each other. And a lot of times, I know I wasn't in my matches. So, we had a good time with it. So it was actually easier than I thought it would have been to change. I just did a lot of my favorite heels. I did a lot of Ric Flair. I did a lot of heel Razor and heel Sean in my Just Incredible character at the time.
That's awesome.
It sounds so cool. Such an amazing run, of course. And starting at the beginning of getting into ECW, a very prolific name in wrestling always, Paul Heyman. How much involved was he when you got into it, like the hiring process, let's call it? Yeah.
He was there for the whole thing. I mean, we worked hand in hand through the entire 3.5-year journey that I was there. We worked very closely. He was the one that hired me. He ran ECW. So it was a one-man show, and Paul and I worked really close together all the way up till the end,
Now,
it was fun.
Did you have weapons and matches? Did you have much experience before you got there? So like, were you like, was it nerve-wracking at first, the idea, or were you just ready for it?
No, I mean, that's what that's again, I know I don't do it justice the way I talk about it, but it's just pro wrestling. I mean, it doesn't take much. If you're a fan of it as long as I have been, it doesn't take much just to get hit by a chair and sell it.
Yeah.
Or
you've seen it before.
Yeah. And that's how I kind of have done most of my stuff, like the ladder stuff. I mean, again, that's just, you go out there, you try it on for size, maybe once or twice beforehand, then you just do it. And a lot of times it just works out better that way. Cause I never did anything that insane if you really go back and look at it. So yeah, I mean, it was easy, man. That's the easy stuff. The hard stuff was going out there and wrestling Jerry Lynn for 30 minutes and doing all that flipping and flying.
Classic,
that was the hard stuff.
That's what I noticed now, like, because wrestling, like, I'm just trying to learn to be a great wrestler, so I haven't really had many weapons in any matches yet. So I never really, I haven't been at that stage of my career yet. So I was just wondering to see how nerve-wracking or anything is, but
it's actually quite easy. It's actually quite easy.
Absolutely.
Not bad at all. Yeah.
How about the actual name Just Incredible? Because that's one of the more interesting names, obviously, in wrestling. Everyone loved it. Who came up with that?
A wrestler from ECW. He's part of the ring crew. He really never made it big at all. Wild Bill Wiles. He brought it to Paul Heyman to use it for himself, and Paul said he didn't really see him using that name. He had another idea for him, but he paid him $500 in cash to give that name to me. So this young ring crew wrestler sold it to Paul, and Paul gave it to me. So that's how it happened.
That's a really cool story, though. I mean, it is nice he paid him. He could have just taken it, I guess, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Absolutely.
And so you touched on it briefly, a little bit more about ECW. So you say that it's not as everyone sees it. How was that backstage culture, though? Because as everyone sees it, you guys were really killing each other. What was it like when the cameras were off?
It was fun. It was a great time. We were doing great business. The shows were awesome. It was just it was probably the best 3.5 years anybody could want to have in a career. I mean, it was fun going to work. It was fun being at work, and it's just a shame it didn't last longer. It really was special. There was magic every night. Whether it was a house show or a TV taping, it was special. And we knew how to have fun, and we knew how to put on good shows. We knew what the fans wanted. The fans were equally as part of ECW as we were, because without them there would be no us. And they really allowed us and gave us this little playground to play in.
Right.
So it was really fun.
Yeah, it absolutely seemed that way. Okay, Sean, can we hear about any dream matches that you had in mind that you've thought up about? I'm sure you've been a fan for a long time, as you said. So let's hear some of those matches.
Dream match, man.
Any that you thought up. Yeah,
I would have loved to wrestle the Undertaker, but it's awesome, Justin. You wrestle. That's so cool. But I mean, I guess like there's a lot of independent guys that are a lot bigger right now. Guys like there's a JP, I think JP Warhorse, like Jake something.
Right. Yeah, of course.
Joey Janela, there's a couple of guys though I've been happy to wrestle, like just starting out, like Travis Titan and frontman Josh C's, just guys that I train with, and I just think they got great potential. And but I'd love to wrestle like I love if I could wrestle any technical guys, because I really love technical wrestling. I really think that Daniel Bryan is just awesome. Even guys like Dean Malenko, William Regal, like those guys, I love their styles, and that's something I really want to bring to my element. I'm just, starting out, trying to learn how to wrestle, but until we get, better and better, I really just want to get that down, and I think that would be a dream match would be like a Daniel Bryan, that would be awesome. But
you think that mesh well with your style to a Daniel Bryan match?
Yeah, absolutely. I really just love because with my character, I really want to look like I like the look of not the basic technical wrestler look. Just I see a lot of guys, just having trunks, and obviously it's great, but I want to just look like I'm from the street, but be like the street technician, and just be something different, and
totally.
That's something I'm always looking for different with Sabotage, which I'm always trying to see, because there's so many things of character development, like just finding that, I know this is off the question, but with the character development, just, a lot of people take something from long ago and bring it back and have an own twist on it, and that's something that's just I want to be able to have something different, So I think that's something I would love to be a technical wrestler, to the finest, but just not look the part, like the average, a lot of I guess the British, UK wrestling, a lot of those guys, have a look, I feel, and I could be wrong, but I want to bring something different,
Of course, and Justin. Sean touched on it a little bit more from Pro Wrestling 101 maybe. Any advice on that character development throughout a career to see that character evolve?
As far as character development, I think it's really important to just have an idea of what you want to do, like Sean said, but also realize and be open to where it's taking you. Sometimes we don't always get to choose. Sometimes something will happen to you inadvertently in the ring or in a situation, and you could see it kind of works for you. So sometimes, like I had certain plans for the character Just Incredible to be kind of like a Conan, almost like a street thug kind of guy.
Okay. Yeah.
And it just that wasn't me. And I quickly, because I was wearing the flannel and stuff very, very early on. And then I was like, that's not going to work. So, sometimes just always be open to taking a different path and kind of trying everything out. If you have that, if you have that afforded to you. Some people don't, unfortunately, but, sometimes, man, you may not see it for what it is, but, take it, always be open to different paths, I should say. Sure. Yeah. And your character will always come,
Awesome. That's great.
Justin, do you have any memories from ECW? Because we hear about this a lot. We've had a few people on the show, Raven and New Jack. Any ribs that you care to talk about in the ECW backstage culture? I'd love to hear some stories.
Believe it or not, man, I don't. I didn't do ribs. I always hated them in WWE, and so no, nothing like that. I just remember one time I got mad at Joel Gertner, like I threw his shoes in the garbage, but that was about it.
Yeah.
Nothing. I always stayed away from that. I was actually I took myself a little seriously in ECW, so I was always focused on it. But so that's about it. Nothing crazy. I never went out. Like when I was in ECW, I didn't party or anything.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
I kind of stayed to myself. Yeah.
New Jack had a bit of a different angle on that.
Yeah, big time. Yeah, he's the guy to go to for those stories.
Yeah.
For sure.
Sean, one more question for you. What can we see as you move forward in your career for the future? Where can we expect to see you? Let's hear it.
Man, I just want to be grinding, working as hard as possible, man. I'm not the strongest, not the fastest, not the best spoken on promos, all of that. I'm always working, but I just want to be able to work harder than anyone else and just get to my goals by working hard, man. And really it really changed my mindset. I always was passionate about it. I obviously went to the schools and stuff, and this coronavirus, it happened and the gyms closed and I was just sitting there. I remember I looked at myself in the mirror and I was just like, dude, something about that moment 2 months in, and I was just like, okay, something's got to change. And me and my dad, we set up like a home gym, and I really just got dedicated to the lifting. So I'm just developing every day, just getting better every day, man. And just never taking the eye off the prize, I suppose.
Nice.
And just always grinding, man. That's I love the journey right now. I got the goals, but I gotta keep working harder. And right now it's tough to find shows every, week. I would love to wrestle, I love to wrestle every day of the week, but right now, shows getting canceled left and right. It just kind of sucks, but I think I'll be ready when everything, hopefully gets cleared up, and I think I'll be ready for it. I got the mindset now, so I'll be ready for it. I'm ready to attack it.
Yeah. And Justin, for you, what can we expect in the future for you ongoing? I know you've got some things in the works. I know you still do shows as well, so let's hear it.
Yeah. Well, for all my social media stuff, just follow me both on Twitter and Instagram at PJ Polacco. Also, prowrestlingtees.com/Just Incredible. Over 20 awesome designs and T-shirts. Also, it's going to be announced this week. There's going to be a new wrestling game for Xbox and the PS4 and 5. It's called Wrestling Code. It's going to focus
I'm
on
excited for that game,
a lot of indie guys. Myself, I'm on it. Sandman, Shane Douglas. We just got signed to it. So look forward to that. That'll be coming out hopefully next year. So, yeah, man, that's about it. And unfortunately, like he said, too, a couple of my shows just got canceled. I was supposed to be in Detroit this Saturday. That got canceled. And also I was supposed to be in Florida the following weekend. That got canceled. So it's been rough, man. So hopefully I'll be out there again soon, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, totally. And final question, Justin,
Sure.
Any advice ongoing for Sean as he moves forward in his career? You've given some great words so far.
Sure.
Any lasting advice?
Just what I could say to you, my friend, is just stay safe, stay healthy, because although you want to do everything and you want to, go out there and kick ass and kill, you can't do it if you're hurt.
Yeah.
And that's one thing that a lot of people take for granted when they're young. They kind of are, they go out there and they try all these crazy things. But like, I'm 47 years old and I'm grateful that I could still walk and I could still wrestle and move around pretty good, because I was always very smart at the kinds of bumps I took. So just always protect yourself, and there's a time and place for everything. So you'll get your moments to do your big bumps, but just save them for the right times, and but take care of your body.
Right on. Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, brother.
Thank you both so much for being here. This closes out for the episode. I really appreciate it. I think, did we lose Justin?
We might have, but hey, I appreciate it, brother. If he's out,
I think the phone died. Yeah. Wow. We finished it off just in time.
Perfect. But hey, I appreciate you having me, Jonah. It's a pleasure. I thank you so much for the opportunity to be on here. Like, seriously,
absolutely.
I'm glad I met you, and I look forward to another one if there ever is a chance,
Definitely. No, down the road.
Listen, Daddy, Boogie Woogie Man feel good. I tell my people, my brothers and sisters, don't you dare miss online. Rewind, recap, relive. Oh, yeah.